My fiancé cheated on me and told me I'd never find someone like her. A year later, I ended up dating a model who, as it turned out, had secretly had a crush on me since high school. The other day, while scrolling through Reddit, I stumbled across a post about a guy whose girlfriend was blatantly cheating on him and didn't even try to hide it. She was completely upfront about it, as if it were the most normal thing in the world. It was crazy. And for the first time in a while, it made me think about my ex. I haven't shared this story with many people, mostly because it's long and, frankly, it wasn't exactly a pleasant experience at the time. But after reading that post, I figured, why not? Might as well put it out there. This all happened about 2 years ago. I met my ex, let's call her Chloe, through a dating app. But not one of those casual hookup apps. This was one of the so-called serious ones, where people supposedly looked for real relationships. At the time, I was 33 and she was 30. We matched, started talking, and right away, there was something there. It's hard to explain, but we just clicked. We had the same sense of humor, similar interests, and could talk for hours without running out of things to say. It felt effortless. After a few weeks of texting and phone calls, I finally asked her out on a real date. Honestly, I was nervous. She was stunning, like, breathtakingly beautiful. I'm not saying I think I'm ugly or anything, I'm a decent-looking guy, but she was on a whole different level. At the time, I told myself I probably wouldn't let things get too serious. Girls like her usually have a ton of options, and the last thing I wanted was to set myself up for heartbreak. Being with someone that attractive might sound like a dream, but it comes with its own set of challenges. She said yes to the date, though, and it went amazingly well. It confirmed everything I'd felt from our conversations. After that, we started seeing each other more and more, and before I knew it, we were officially together. There was one thing, though, that I couldn't help but notice. Other guys were constantly giving her attention. She'd mention it casually from time to time, even when I was right there. Some guy would hit on her in front of me, or she'd get messages from random dudes on social media. At first, I didn't let it get to me. I trusted her. She seemed genuinely into me, and I never got the sense that she was interested in anyone else. Maybe I was naive, but that's how I felt. I was happy, and I didn't want to be the jealous boyfriend who freaks out over every little thing. Things were great, really great, except for this one small moment that stuck with me. One night, we were having one of those deep, late-night talks, just jumping from one random topic to another. Somehow, the idea of hall passes came up. If you don't know, it's this hypothetical thing where you and your partner each get to pick one celebrity you'd be allowed to sleep with, no questions asked. It's usually just a joke, but sometimes it can reveal more than people realize. What caught me off guard was that she was the one who brought it up. Normally, I'm the one who starts silly conversations like that. She said her hall pass would be Justin Timberlake. Fair enough, he's a good-looking guy. But then she added something that stuck with me. With this little smirk, she said, "Honestly, I don't think many celebrities would turn me down." Now, I'd always known she was gorgeous, obviously. But hearing her say it out loud like that, it rubbed me the wrong way. It was like she fully believed she could have any man she wanted. It made me uncomfortable. It wasn't like her, either. Despite how beautiful she was, she'd always seemed pretty down-to-earth. But that moment? It felt arrogant. It didn't sit right with me. I didn't say anything then. I just laughed it off and let the conversation move on. But that comment stuck with me. For days, it lingered in the back of my mind. Eventually, the feeling faded, and things went back to normal, but I never really forgot about it. Then, little by little, I started noticing a shift in her behavior. At first, it was subtle. But over time, it became impossible to ignore. She started coming home later than usual. Before, she'd be home from work around 6. But then, it turned into 7. Then 7:30. Then, even later. Her explanations? Pretty weak. She'd say things like, "Oh, I lost track of time," or, "I ran into a friend and stopped to chat." It was weird because she used to be so detailed about her day. If she stayed late at work, she'd tell me exactly what she was working on, who she talked to, all of it. But now? Her reasons were vague. meaningless. And on top of that, she was getting snappy. If I asked why she was late, she'd get defensive. She'd say I was being controlling or that I didn't trust her. I didn't want to argue, so most of the time, I just let it go. I'm not the confrontational type, especially when someone's already in a bad mood. But the late nights kept happening. And so did the flimsy excuses. That little voice in the back of my head kept whispering that something wasn't right. I tried to push the thought away, but it was getting harder to ignore. Eventually, I asked her straight up if something was wrong. I said, "Hey, is everything okay? You seem different lately." She denied it, of course. She told me everything was fine, just work stress. The usual excuse. I wanted to believe her. I really did. But the same pattern kept repeating. Finally, I couldn't keep it in anymore. I told her that her behavior had changed and that I was worried. This time, she actually listened. She even apologized. She said she'd been overwhelmed and exhausted, that it wasn't personal. I understood what she was saying, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. For a little while after that, things seemed to get better. She was more open, more talkative. When she came home late, she'd give me more details about what she'd been up to. But something about it felt off. Like she was going through the motions, saying what she thought I wanted to hear. Then came the night that confirmed it for me. She came home late and told me she had run into an old coworker and grabbed drinks with him. And I knew. I don't know how to explain it, but in that moment, something clicked. It was like a switch flipped in my brain. She was lying. And not just about something small. This was something bigger. That's when the thought hit me. She was cheating on me. This wasn't just some misunderstanding. This was a full-blown affair. I couldn't keep pretending that everything was okay. One way or another, I had to uncover the truth. The woman I had fallen for was not the same person standing in front of me now. Her behavior had changed in ways I couldn't ignore. It was undeniable. She wasn't the woman I had once loved, and something was clearly off. I wasn't about to let it slide. I had to find out what was going on. So, the plan. There I was, convinced my girlfriend was cheating on me. My first instinct? Check her phone. After all, that's where the evidence should be, right? Texts, emails, social media, everything I needed. But I quickly realized that wasn't going to work. For one, she was practically glued to her phone, making it nearly impossible to get my hands on it long enough for a proper search. And even if I did manage to access it, I wasn't exactly a tech genius. I wouldn't even know what to look for, and chances were, she had already erased anything incriminating. Besides, I needed something solid. I didn't want to find a vague message and jump to conclusions. I needed undeniable proof. I had to catch her in the act, no room for doubt. That's when I decided to take another route. Hire a private investigator. Yeah, I know. It sounds like something straight out of a movie. But at that point, I was desperate. I needed answers, and I wanted someone who knew what they were doing to help me get them. I needed to know who this guy was and where they were meeting. So, I did a quick Google search for private investigators in my area and found one with solid reviews. I called and set up a meeting. I remember feeling nervous as hell walking into that office. It felt like admitting defeat. I sat down across from the investigator, a guy who looked like he'd seen it all before, and I laid it all out. I told him everything, every suspicion, every late night, every excuse that didn't add up. He listened patiently, nodding as I spoke. No judgment, no skepticism. He didn't make me feel like an idiot. He just let me talk. Then, after a moment, he told me he'd dealt with cases like this hundreds of times before. He suggested 2 weeks of surveillance since her late nights were unpredictable, but that would be pricey. In the end, we settled on 10 days. I gave him all the details, her phone number, email, where she worked. Before I left, he gave me one clear instruction: no contact until the 10 days were up unless it was an emergency. It'll be tough, he warned, but you have to let me do my job. I nodded. I knew it was going to be hell, but I had to trust him. The longest 10 days of my life. It was agonizing to know that at any moment, the investigator might uncover the proof that confirmed my worst fears. I felt completely powerless. All I could do was wait, sit there, overthinking every possibility. It consumed me. Work was unbearable. I couldn't sleep. I barely ate. And the worst part? She kept coming home late. 3 different times, she rolled in past 9 p.m., offering the same weak excuses. Oh, I made last-minute plans with friends. Traffic was awful. Each time she fed me another excuse, it only cemented my suspicions. Every late night, I thought, this is it. This is when the investigator catches her. Every delay just gave him more chances to get the proof I needed. The truth comes out. Finally, the 10 days were up. The investigator called me right on schedule. He kept it short, just said he had the information I was looking for and asked if we could meet in person. I didn't hesitate. Yes, absolutely. I couldn't hear this over the phone. After waiting so long, I needed to look him in the eye and see the truth for myself. I drove over, my hands shaking the whole way. My stomach was in knots. When I walked in, he was sitting there, a manila envelope resting on the desk in front of him. He gestured for me to sit. Then he asked, "Do you want me to tell you what I found, or would you rather go through the evidence yourself?" I told him to say it first. Maybe hearing it from him would soften the blow. In my mind, it felt like catching someone in the act. You want a second to brace yourself before the impact hits. He took a deep breath and said it straight. Your suspicions were right. No sugarcoating. No dancing around it. Just the cold, hard truth. He told me he had followed her to an apartment building. 3 times. She went in alone, stayed for about 2 hours, and then left, with the same guy each time. He had the apartment number and the guy's name. Cody. Obviously, that's not his real name. And I won't lie, my first thought was, I need to find this Cody guy, and let's just say I wasn't feeling too peaceful about it. But I knew that wasn't the point. The real betrayal was my girlfriend, the woman I loved. That's where my focus needed to be. The investigator slid the envelope across the desk. I opened it, and there they were, photos. Shots of her and Cody outside the apartment. Hugging, holding hands, kissing right in front of her car. Black and white proof. Undeniable. I nearly lost it. Almost broke down right then and there. It's one thing to have suspicions, to feel something in your gut. But seeing it? That was something else entirely. The weight of it all hit me at once. I barely held back tears. It wasn't just the affair, it was the realization that my entire life, everything I had built with her, was crumbling before my eyes. The confrontation. I wasn't sure what came next, but I knew I needed answers. I had to confront her. When I got home, I asked her to sit down. I didn't yell. I didn't make a scene. I just looked at her and said, "We need to talk." She knew something was wrong. She could see it all over my face. So she sat and I laid it all out. I told her I knew. That I had hired a private investigator. That I had proof. At first, she just stared at me, stunned, her mouth slightly open. Then she tried to compose herself, like she could somehow talk her way out of it. But I wasn't having it. I told her everything. The apartment. The late nights. Cody. And she just sat there. Silent. No denial. No apology. She didn't even try to explain herself. Just sat there, silent, listening. The more I spoke, the angrier I became. Her silence was infuriating. She didn't seem remorseful. She didn't even look like she cared. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. I told her it was over. I said, I can't do this anymore. I'm done with the lies, done with this game. It's over. And then, out of nowhere, she did something I never saw coming. She laughed. She actually laughed. Then she stood up, squared her shoulders like she was trying to intimidate me, and launched into this ridiculous monologue. "You want to leave me?" she scoffed. "Are you serious?" "So what?" I had a little fun on the side. It was just physical, it didn't mean anything. She shrugged, completely unfazed. "Okay, so I'm a cheater. Fine. But let's be real, where do you think you're gonna go from here? You honestly think you'll ever land someone like me again?" She tilted her head, smirking. "Hasn't it been obvious all these years? I'm out of your league. You're really willing to throw away everything over one mistake." And she didn't stop there. She kept going, acting like I should feel lucky just to have her, as if I should be grateful, even after everything. Can you believe that? I was stunned. I always knew she was arrogant, but this was something else entirely. This wasn't an apology. This wasn't the reaction of someone who got caught and felt guilty. This was the response of someone who just didn't give a damn. She had this reckless, screw it, attitude, like she genuinely thought she was untouchable. It was as if, in her perfect world, I would just accept that she was too good for me, let her do whatever she wanted, and still be happy to stick around. She actually believed I wouldn't have the guts to walk away. That's how full of herself she was. Her words hit me like a freight train. I had already felt hurt. I had already felt betrayed. But this was rage. A pure, seething fury unlike anything I had ever felt before. I stood up, locked eyes with her, and told her exactly how much I despised her. I don't even remember the exact words. I just know I meant every single one. Then I walked out. No bags. No goodbye. I just left. I couldn't stand to be in the same room with her for another second. I felt completely shattered. But it was done. That night, I checked into a cheap motel. There was no way I was going back to that house, not yet. I needed space. I lay there in that stiff motel bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying the confrontation over and over. I still couldn't believe the way she reacted. It was unbelievable. The next day, I went back to grab some of my stuff. I assumed she'd be at work. She wasn't. Her face was puffy, like she'd been crying, but she was trying to act tough, like none of it mattered. And then, get this, she smirked. I knew you'd be back, she said, like I had just thrown a little tantrum and was crawling back to her. I didn't say a word. I just walked inside, grabbed some clothes, toiletries, and the essentials. I knew I'd have to come back for the rest later, but right then, I just wanted to get the hell out of there. On my way out, I muttered, I'll be back for the rest later. She just stood there, staring at me, like she genuinely couldn't believe I was leaving. She didn't say a word until I was at the door. Then she whispered something under her breath. I didn't catch it. And honestly, I didn't care. For days, I kept trying to make sense of it. Why she acted the way she did. Maybe she was chasing some thrill. Maybe she needed validation. Maybe she felt insecure about getting older or bored with routine. Maybe, deep down, she had always thought of me as safe, dependable, someone who wasn't really her equal. And because she always felt that way, she had convinced herself that cheating wasn't a big deal. She had already justified it in her mind. Of course, I was just speculating, trying to make sense of something that made no sense at all. After I left, she started messaging me. At first, her texts were sarcastic, mocking, like she thought this was all some big joke. Like she truly believed I'd come crawling back. She thought I was bluffing. But a few days later, I showed up with a friend to get the rest of my stuff. And when she saw me standing there, ready to pack up and go, reality finally sank in. She looked shocked. I think that was the moment she realized this was actually happening. One of her last messages to me read, I hope you know you'll never find anyone like me again. Seriously? I blocked her after that. I couldn't take any more of her delusions. All right, let's fast forward a bit. The whole breakup with Chloe was a disaster, and it took me some time to get back on my feet. But life moves on, right? A few months later, my 15-year high school reunion came up. At first, I wasn't sure if I even wanted to go, but a bunch of my old friends convinced me. Turned out to be a great decision. It was good to see familiar faces, catch up with people I hadn't seen in years. The whole night had this fun, nostalgic energy. And then, there was Veronica. Veronica had been in my class back in high school. She was tall, effortlessly beautiful, the kind of woman who turned heads the second she walked into a room. And that night, she walked straight into mine. We were cordial in high school, even took a few classes together, but we were never particularly close. Veronica was just one of those effortlessly cool girls, the kind everyone gravitated toward. After high school, she became a model, and not just any model, a successful one. I had seen her in magazines, even in some online ads. If you're into fashion, you might recognize her name. Me? I hadn't spoken to her in at least 7 years, maybe longer. So there I was at the reunion, having a great time catching up with old friends when I realized Veronica wasn't there. Her best friend from high school, however, was. And they were still incredibly close, which I thought was amazing. Despite all her success, Veronica hadn't let it change who she was. That said a lot about her. I went over to say hello, just to catch up. We talked for a while, and her friend kept smiling like she was in on some kind of secret. When I mentioned Veronica's name, that smile grew even wider. She made a face and said, "I know she's going to kill me for telling you this, but you know she's always had a crush on you, right?" I actually laughed out loud. I mean, come on. Veronica? A model? Having a crush on me? It sounded ridiculous. Even in high school, we weren't in the same social circles. We were friendly, sure, but nothing more. There was no way. And now? No chance. It was flattering, of course, the thought that someone like her might have found me attractive. But I assumed this was just a high school thing, a passing phase she'd long since forgotten. I told her friend as much, but she just shook her head and insisted. "No, seriously." She asked me to check you out at the reunion, to see if you still looked as good as you did in high school. And, she added, grinning, she's still into you. So if you're single and not scared of girls with a little baggage, you might as well give it a shot. I spent the rest of the night thinking about that conversation. It was completely unexpected. And I won't lie, it felt damn good to hear. Especially after everything that happened with Chloe. Chloe always acted like she was some kind of prize, like I was lucky to have her. But here was this woman, someone Chloe would have called way out of my league, and she was apparently into me. It was a serious confidence boost. After that conversation, I figured, why not? What did I have to lose? So I decided to reach out to Veronica. I found her on Instagram and sent her a message. Just a casual one, nothing too forward. I also gave her friend a heads up, just in case Veronica didn't check her DMs from people she didn't follow. I didn't want my message getting lost in the abyss. And then, I waited. And waited. And waited. 5 days passed and nothing. I had honestly forgotten about it by then. Figured she was busy. Or maybe her friend had exaggerated things. Either way, I wasn't too bothered. But then, she replied. And not just a generic response. She wrote, asterisk, "Oh my gosh, Keith, it's been so long." Asterisk. Now, I've heard that the more letters a woman drags out in a text, the more she likes you. I don't know if that's scientifically proven, but I took it as a good sign. From there, we just clicked. We started messaging back and forth, catching up on everything, high school, what we'd been up to, our jobs, our families. Everything. After a few days, Veronica suggested we switch to FaceTime. Said she was tired of typing so much. Of course, I was thrilled. And before I knew it, we were video calling nearly every day. During those calls, I got a glimpse into her world, the world of modeling. She told me about the industry, the constant travel, the photo shoots, the ups and downs. At the time, she was in Brussels for a campaign and even sent me behind-the-scenes pictures. It was fascinating. And it brought us even closer, despite being thousands of miles apart. After weeks of this, it felt like we were dating, though we hadn't officially said it. So, I decided to go for it. What are we? I asked her one night, half joking but also dead serious. She laughed and said, "Well, we're really great friends, but I'd like to be more." That was all the cue I needed. I asked her if she wanted to be my girlfriend, and she didn't hesitate for a second. She said yes. Of course, long distance was tricky. She was traveling the world as a model, while I was here, living my regular life. I'd done long distance before and hated it. It was hard to maintain that connection, to feel like you were really part of each other's lives. But this was different. This was Veronica. And she mattered to me enough that I was willing to do whatever it took to make it work. So, I booked a flight to Brussels. She'd be there for a few more weeks, and I figured, why not? If I was serious about her, I needed to take a real step forward. Brussels was beautiful, but being there with Veronica, that was something else entirely. It felt surreal. It showed me that love was still possible, that not everyone was like Chloe, that some people were worth the effort. She even took me to one of her photo shoots. I got to watch her work, see her in her element, cheer her on from the sidelines. Took some pictures of my own. It made me feel like I was truly part of her life. One day, I posted some of those pictures, just to my close friend's story on Instagram. I wasn't thinking much about it. Then I got a message. From Chloe. I had blocked her everywhere else but forgot about Instagram. Rookie mistake. Her message? Asterisk, who's that? Why are you playing groupie? Asterisk followed by a laughing emoji. I kept my response short. That's my girlfriend. She didn't respond right away. But I could see the little typing bubble pop up and disappear. Again and again. Like she was writing, deleting, rewriting. Finally, she just sent a single word. Sure. And that's when I decided to twist the knife a little. You don't have to believe me, I wrote. But if you thought you were out of my league, Veronica is out of this world. Oh, by the way, how's that guy you cheated with? She read it. Never responded. And then I blocked her. Petty? Maybe. But after everything, she deserved it. And that's the story. A journey through betrayal, heartbreak, and ultimately, finding love in the most unexpected place. Veronica and I have been together ever since that trip. And between you and me, I'm thinking about proposing before the year's over. Don't tell her, though. She's the best thing that's ever happened to me. And if Chloe taught me one thing, it's that sometimes losing something bad is the best way to make room for something truly great.